I met Walter in Indianapolis, Indiana in 2003. I'd never heard of the guy. Went to see him. I was a big Gary Moore fan, and I was with my buddy, and we decided to go see. We'd heard about this guy who's playing there. You're going to see Walter Trout. Okay, we'll go see this guy with the funny name. Everybody's always trying to talk to Walter. The musicians always try to talk to him on the break. So he's walking through. And I said, yeah, I play blues. He stopped for a second. I said, yeah. Like, with who? I said, well, I play with guys in Chicago. The first guy I said was Sam Lay, who I was with for many years. Sam Lay, Kerry Bell, A.C. Reed, John Little John, and those guys. And he stopped for a second, came back, he didn't believe me. I didn't know that at the time. And he said, yeah, really? And I said, yeah, man, here's Sam's number. You know, call him, he'd love to hear from you, you know, he'd love to talk to you. And he called Sam Lay. The next day I got a call at home, and it was Walter, and he said, man, I thought you were feeding me a line. He said, I thought I'd call this number and get a pizza parlor or something like that. He said, and who answered the phone? It was Sam Lay. He said, so he was calling to tell me thanks for giving him Sam's number. And Sam, you know, said some very nice things about me and as a bass player. Walter said if he could ever come to a show, come and sit in. So, fast forward 2 years, a guy that I knew was actually roading for Walter. Walter said, if I ever need a guy, I'll call you. 2 months later, he called. I joined the band, you know, and here I am 9 years later. It's been a really cool thing, you know. We've seen a lot together and shared a lot of times. And, you know, I'm playing with these guys, and John's here, and I can see this is going to be a very dangerous tour.
I am the oldest member of the band here. I've been in the band going on 14 years now.
Ooh.
And man, he found my number through some people in LA, and he gave me a call, and I went down and jammed with him a couple tunes at Perks in Huntington Beach. And next day he called me and he says, hey, I want you in my band, man. So I play Hammond B3 organ. Been doing it for many years. Yeah, I got two sons who are players.
Phenomenal players.
They're one's a guitar player, one's a drummer. The boys were young when I first joined the band, and Walter watched my guys grow since they were young boys, and they grew into these musicians that are just can play it all, play everything, and now they're touring. You know, they just got off a tour today, and they're well on their way to being pros, and and Walter really made him shine every time, came up and featured him, and that was really special to me for what he did there.
He's fiercely determined. He's got a new lease on life, and I talked to him today, and he is serious about not wasting any time, getting his health back, and being grateful for every moment, not taking anything for granted. He's got a new lease on life. He's like a different person now, you know, when you hear it in his voice. And to hear him, like Danny and I were talking about yesterday, having that big voice. He's getting his big voice back, and he's walking, and he's got an appetite now. Everything that he went through was such a struggle, and now he's on the other side of it and slowly getting better. And we all are very hopeful and very happy that, you know, not only that he's going to live, but that he's going to do what he loves best, and that we'll be able to do it with him, because we've been with him through the whole thing. I'm Mike Leasure. I've been the drummer for Walter for 6 years, and I was playing at a gig with his brother, John Avila, who was the bass player for Oingo Boingo for many years, and many other famous people, phenomenal bass player. And we were doing a gig, and Sammy was on the phone at our show, and I said, who are you on the phone with? And he said, Walter Trout. And I grabbed the phone out of his hand, and I said, Walter, you don't know me, but my name's Mike Leasure, and I'm your next drummer. And 6 months later, he needed a drummer, and he gave me a call, and we had lunch, and here I am.
Wow.
And it's been a blessing, too. It's changed my life. We've been all over the world several times. I get paid to do what I love to do and meet great people, and you know, we're like a family. And what Sammy said ties into how Danny is in the picture and standing in Walter's place, because he was so giving all these years, you know, from the very beginning, and even so till now. And mentored Danny from when he was a young man of 14.
Yeah, for 20 years.
I'll let Danny tell you about it, but that's why he's here, because they were so close, and Danny was so influenced by Walter, and he's done that for many, many people over the past few decades, always helping a young singer, songwriter, guitar player, get a leg up and give them an opportunity to play and be heard and get on stage and get experience, And John's following in his dad's footsteps. He's got his dad's spirit, and he's got his his chops and his blood, his DNA, and that drive and desire to play music. So Walter has not only done such a great thing with his own music, touching the world and sharing his gift with the world, but many individual lives and artists, because of him and his giving nature.
I met Walter when I was 14, so it was 20 years ago now, and living in England, Cambridge. Whenever he'd tour the UK, he'd give me guitar lessons and things like that, and always encouraged me and taught me about the blues, really. And he's my mentor, and I love him, and it's an honour to come out and sort of step in for him with this great band, great bunch of people. It's going to be a fantastic tour. We're just keeping it ready for when these guys go back out with the boss, really.
You met Walt by writing him a letter?
Yeah, I wrote him a letter.
He called you?
Yeah, I was. My mum and dad had an album called Prisoner of a Dream, which was like his second album. It was on vinyl, and I just really loved it. And it wasn't they. I grew up around that sort of music, but that was the first one that really sort of connected with me. And then I was out shopping with my mum in Cambridge, and we saw a poster for Walter playing, and I said, can we go? So mum and dad took me, and I wrote him a letter and put like a picture in, and he'd come out to watch the support band, which he wouldn't normally do, and he rang me up, he called me up and said, I remember you, and he said, you reminded me of me with my mum and dad. He was actually out, and he phoned and spoke to my dad, and then he said to my dad, well, don't tell him, and I'll call him back later when he comes home. So, I didn't know what to say to him. I was like, oh. But yeah, and it's been lovely, and he's, he's been like a second father to me, really, and I love him absolutely dearly, and just that he instilled that passion, and he taught me how to play. Sometimes in a physical sense he would be there showing me with the guitar, but obviously from all the CDs and everything as well, just from listening, he'd tell me who to listen to, and he'd spend hours with me teaching me about the blues and telling me about the blues, and just passing stuff on, which is what happens in blues. If you're lucky to get the right mentor, they take care of you, and blues is one genre of music, I think, where people really do want to pass it on. They care about the music, and they see someone, and I was probably one of the first, but like Mike said, since then there's been loads of guys that he's helped out, and still to this day, and I'm sure will continue to for years, and he always said to me, the deal is I do it for you, and then you have to do it for someone else.
Tell us about what it's like growing up with Walter Trout as your dad.
Well, let me put it this way. I grew up surrounded by it all the time since day one. So, earlier you were asking about what's the affiliation with him. I've known it my whole life. It was always just kind of like Dad's job. I mean, when I was little, my dad's such a great person. When I was little, people would say, my dad's a fireman. I thought, oh, that's cool. My dad just plays the guitar. I didn't know. Yeah, when I was little, I wanted to be a trash man. I wanted to be a firefighter. I wanted to do all this stuff. And it wasn't until I moved out that I really kind of started to realize what guitar music and this blues was about, really. And then, the whole deal with the health thing on top of that, and almost losing them, it's just a miracle he made it through. And that's really partially because of the amount of fan support that has come through this whole thing. I know my mother started this campaign with Danny and Kirby here to build fundraising for the medical expenses and for
for my family to keep getting food on the table and a roof over their heads. The amount of momentum and energy and just inertia that was put into this by the fan community really helped keep them going, helped keep them stable, almost like you got all this energy going into something. It was almost like, the gyroscope that kept them stable, if you will. So that was really, really, really powerful, and I don't think I'm ever going to take what I got for granted again.